この番組はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and we're here. We made it. This is Neon Genesis Evangelion, the finale, episodes 25 and 26. I have no idea what to expect, except to have any expectations that I have blown away, so I'm just gonna go in blind and see what happens. Last time we were introduced to Kaworu, the final angel, and the potentially gay angel. There was some interesting stuff there, and we'll get into that when we do the comment spotlight. And there's a lot of moral ambiguity around Seale, fuck, I can never remember it. You know who I mean, the old men talking behind big holographic squares. That makes sense. I've got a bunch of things that I want to talk about before the episode. I'll make sure to put lots of timestamps in the description so you can skip around and skip a lot of my rambling. I've got a bunch of stuff that I want to talk about, so I'm just going to, I don't know how to structure it or anything, so I'm just going to start talking, and then we'll play the episode when I'm done talking about things. So, I want to do a comment spotlight, and then I want to discuss some of the stuff that was discussed in the Discord after the episode, because I think it got really interesting, and it's sort of informing the way that I move forward with the show, so maybe it'll be of interest to you. And again, if not, there'll be timestamps in the description to, start of reaction, start of discussion for 25, start of reaction for 26, start of discussion for 26, and stuff like that. Let's jump into the comment spotlight, because I think that's where I want to start. So the first one that I want to spotlight is from MMF, who is also a pretty frequent commenter on my Legend of the Galactic Heroes videos when they actually come out. Whoops. Fun fact, that red shot of Kaworu's face that is in a Ray bit of the latter part of the episode is one of the flashes in the OP. Huh. I hadn't noticed, but that's really cool. Kaworu is one of my favorite things in Evangelion. Although his segment of the story comes off as a bit rushed in NGE, it is still the source of tons of interesting discussion points. In fact, this is probably one of the most commonly discussed episodes in the whole series, and one of the most popular. Also, while I think that NGE and End of Eva are definitely a few steps above any of the other Evangelion content, like the rebuilds, the manga, etc., Kaworu is one character that has really benefited from some of that extra material, some of which draws from earlier plans for the series where he is around for longer and plays a more important role. If you ever get around to it, there is some really cool stuff there. I'll consider it. The big argument with this episode is to what extent Kaworu's intentions and his relationship with Shinji were pure. When I first watched the series, there was also loads of nasty homophobic stuff involved in the discussion, although that has thankfully died down over the years. There is definitely a reasonable cynical argument that I have seen that casts Kaworu in a much more negative light, where he is only using Shinji to achieve his goals until giving up and suiciding, making Shinji feel bad in the process. But to what end? I guess maybe that requires context from later episodes and End of Eva to make much sense, because I don't see the point at this point. Why would Shinji's being fucked up psychologically be so important to the angels? But maybe. But thematically, I've always preferred seeing him as having generally good intentions. I think he did love Shinji as much as an angel could, although perhaps you could say it is a bit more like fascination. Kaworu comes off as a Lilith-phile with his humming of classical music and fascination with the human mindset. I agree. As such, I've always seen the connection between him and Shinji as serving as the end of the progression that has shown up a few times of angels gaining increased closeness to humanity, which we saw most notably in the Asuka episode with the mind probing. We saw it in the sort of viral angel episode where it's trying to figure out their systems, and we saw it in the episode where Rei is invaded by an angel. This is definitely, I think there's definitely a thematic tie-in there, and I think that makes a lot more sense to me, that Kaworu, this angel who can express himself, is really intrigued by humanity, by what humanity lacks, or what humanity has that the angels lack. I don't know. As one interesting last note, Hideaki Anno also once said that Kaworu was what Shinji saw as an ideal version of himself. This fits nicely with Shinji's sad spiel at the end of the episode about how Kaworu was better than him. That's interesting to me, seeing that a lot of Shinji's struggle has to do with not being able to open up to people, and Kaworu presents himself as completely open, and we'll get into that in the next comment. Yeah, let's jump into the next comment, because I want to keep this moving. So, next comment is from Tyr Wolf's Blood. There's an interesting thing about the AT fields here. Kaworu describes them as the barrier of the heart, but the whole time he was with Shinji in this episode, his AT field was down, otherwise it would have been identified as blue. So, Kaworu presented his heart as completely open and at its most vulnerable. I think Shinji felt that, and thus he was so open when talking to him. He could feel Kaworu's heart and felt no threat, only his acceptance and love, making it more enraging when he felt betrayed, and even more destructive when he kills him in the end. Now, this is an interesting thought, because I didn't even piece together the idea that Kaworu being so forward and open with Shinji partly has to do with that he doesn't have his AT field up. And this will tie into the discussion of the stuff that went on in the Discord, because there was one really interesting thread there that had to do with AT fields and the barriers of the heart that I want to talk about. But, yeah, this idea that while humans have these small AT fields in our hearts, angels are powerful enough that they are these big expressed physical things. And for Kaworu to infiltrate the nerve headquarters, he had to remove that barrier and perhaps be extremely vulnerable. We don't really know, but he certainly comes off that way as very forward. And that makes me feel like his interest in Shinji and his expressions of love are very pure and very straightforward and don't carry an ulterior motive. Like, again, maybe there's more context that I'm missing from further in the series, but I don't see the motivation for Kaworu to, like, be doing this in order to fuck with Shinji. Like, why? Just 'cause? I don't think that flies in this series. Like in a much worse series, I'd be like, okay, just 'cause he is evil, right? I think this is a little bit better thought out than that. Maybe. So then this leads into two things that were discussed on the Discord. The first was something that's also been posted in the comments, but I want to give credit where credit is due, because it was first introduced to me by Joran on the Discord, who posted the Ikuhara interview that he did about Eva, and I thought that was a really interesting interview. You can actually find somebody in the comments has posted it on the 24 episode, and it's quite interesting. It both gives a lot of cool insight into Ikuhara and his way of thinking. It was it Gatsby? It wasn't Gatsby. It was I want to give credit to this person because they're awesome. It was Grunge Hamster, of course. So, Grunge Hamster, on every one of my Revolutionary Girl Utena videos, posts the end of booklet Ikuhara commentaries, which are really interesting and give a lot of cool insights. And he also posted the entire text of the interview in the comments on that episode. So go and check that out. I'm going to heart this and pin it. I'm going to pin that comment so that it's easy to find, and you can go and read that thing, because it's really helpful. I'm not gonna like talk through the entire commentary, but it is interesting hearing about Ikuhara and Anno's relationship. I get the idea that Ikuhara doesn't think that Kaworu is modeled after him, but their conversation in the bath is definitely modeled after a conversation that Ikuhara and Anno had, which is really interesting and kind of cool. Anno being Shinji in this case, and Ikuhara playing the role of Kaworu. So shoutouts to Joran and to Grunge Hamster, both for presenting that. It's an interesting piece and a nice bit of supplementary material. Now, there was another conversation that happened between me and Jika Leitza on the Discord, and I want to talk through it like in more depth, because I think it's a really interesting thought, and I think you could expand this thought out into like a video essay if you really wanted to. And I'm not sure that there's necessarily like any proof for this being the case, but I like it as a way of inspecting the series. So GK wrote, I really liked how they retroactively made the AT field a prominent part of the fights show, something metaphysical that fits with the themes of the show. AT fields are, in a way, manifestations of the hedgehog's dilemma, the wall that everyone has on their heart/soul that prevents people from truly connecting and understanding each other. Angels and Avas are such huge, powerful, and lonely creatures, so they have AT fields that manifest physically. Humans live together and are weak and frail, so the AT fields are small and more metaphysical or psychological, but enough to cause them separation and loneliness/pain. Some of the metaphysical/psychological shit that Anno threw on the wall really stuck, and there were great and original ideas. I agree. But what this made me think of was that this episode, by presenting AT fields this way, and by stating that AT fields are the barriers of the heart, like that one line completely recontextualizes a lot of the fights in the show. If you want to look at it from this perspective, and I'm just presenting this as like an idea, not necessarily I believe this or I think this is correct or what Anno intended. But the fact that we're talking about AT fields as the barriers of the heart makes the conflicts between angels and humans a kind of macrocosm of the distance and differences and conflicts between individual humans. Nerva in general, and the Ava pilots in particular, fight angels because they do not understand them. And in order to defeat them, they have to tear down the borders between them, literally the borders between their hearts, the AT fields, which allows them to cause each other pain and suffering and death. It's sort of a macrocosm of the hedgehog's dilemma. Like, if humans are the feminine, like children of Lilith, the Lilim, and angels are the masculine, or vice versa, whatever, they cannot understand each other, then each time an angel is sent down, a conversation in the form of a battle erupts, and that conversation leads to one side or the other opening their heart, and the side that opens its heart loses, or is destroyed, or suffers. So it's like hedgehogs butting heads, and then tearing off each other's spines, and then dying. I don't know. And then it's like the winner of the fight, Fab wrote this part, but the winner of the fight always ends up abusing their position, having cracked open the other's AT field, and making this a toxic loop of interaction. And every time an angel goes through a human's AT field, it violates their individuality and rips apart their soul, kind of like Asuka. And Fab points out something interesting, that it can do that, but it doesn't necessarily have to. Like, there isn't a case where there's a balance once the AT fields are down, except for Kaoru. And that's why I wanted to bring that comment in with, like, oh, his AT field has been down this whole time, because this is the first time that I know of that an angel and a human have interacted without literally trying to rip each other's heads off, and it works for a short time. And then Shinji has to kill him anyway. Oh, ow, emotional weight. Okay, so that's really all that I wanted to talk about there. It all comes down to hedgehogs, yes. So, okay. I just wanted to get that out and put it out there so that y'all can comment on it and you know, tear this little way of thinking a new one. It's cool. Now, I have rambled for long enough. Let's get into Ava episode 25. I have been informed that it's probably worthless to take notes during this. I'm still going to record my notes thing and probably just won't put emphasis on it, and might write down like really important things that I definitely want to go back to. But from what I know, I will probably end up running through the entire episode at the end anyway, and racking my brain for understanding or comprehension or what have you. So we'll see how it goes. I'm recording the notes anyway, and they'll be up because it doesn't detract from anything as far as I can tell, as long as I'm not trying to write down everything that's ever said in the show. But I have got VLC up. I've got Ava episode 25 ready to go. And welcome back, timestamp people. So there will be multiple versions of this video. There will be picture-in-picture versions on BitChute and Mega. You can find links in the description to those if you don't want to sync up with your own media. And they'll just be the video portion so that they're much smaller files and more accessible on BitChute and easier to render and upload and all that stuff. And also you'll be less likely to hit the mega bandwidth caps. Then there will be the normal timer-based version on YouTube. It will have a beep beep timer. That timer will go boop 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 beep, and on the beep and the green light, that's the same frame that the video starts playing. And as a quick refresher, I am using the Bankai 77 filtered RIP Blu-ray 1080p, all that jazz. Let's get into it. Beep beep timer goes here. Have a sip of tea. I'm gonna look for that red flash of Kaoru. Oh, there it was. Okay, where'd we open? Reason for existing. The reason why I want to be allowed to exist. In the case of Shinji Ikari, the boy wished for death of his own will. The boy granted his wish. The final angel is gone. Head into the LCL. But Shinji Ikari is tormented. Why did you kill him? Why did you kill him? Why did you kill him? Why? Why? Ah, himself. Even though he was also human. Even though he was human like you. If Rei is Lilith, then... that's why you killed him. Wow. Shinji did nothing wrong. Okay. Uncertainty and doubt. Haunting. Okay. Deep fears. What is this? Just a fog and himself alone. No, you are alone. You called for mother. Ah, himself in the position of Toru. Why do you pilot the Ava? Why? Yeah. Okay, back to this. Hmm. Asuka's case. Who's writing these? Who's thinking these? Not if you believe that. Separation anxiety and attachment behavior. Third character. I not be right. Uh-huh. Identity. Right. Hmm. Okie dokie. Once again, Shinji Ikari. Melting into the LCL. Loss of ego. Growing, expanding. What people are lacking, the lost in their hearts. In order to fill that void in the hearts, the instrumentality of hearts and souls begins by returning all things to nothingness. Not to nothingness. To its original state. The thing lacking. Well. The tape. Wow. More and more pieces, more fractured. Why? Hmm. 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 So it never feels legitimate. Hmm. So we start the conversation the same way. The audio keeps panning. It's kind of amazing. Hmm. Hmm. Why? All the versions in your mind. The one within you. Oh. So then how is it different? And so the world was destroyed. The journey toward instrumentality will continue. Okay. I feel that this is just because people have recommended that I watch these two episodes together. I feel that this is incomplete and doesn't give the full picture, and so I'm going to sort of keep the analysis to a minimum and run through the episode in for the express purpose of making sure that like I didn't miss anything, and that certain things that I wanted to double check on, I'm sure of what was seen. So the first thing was there was a flash at around 12:50, and I want to see what was in it. Yeah. Okay, so it's pixelated sex with Kaji. Gotcha. Just wanted to make sure. So the statement that seems to be building from this episode. Unsure of the mechanics of instrumentality or anything like that, but the way we're talking about the images of other people within one's mind. is sort of this idea in philosophy that, like, within your psyche, like you never interact with actual people. You interact with uh poor facsimiles of other people, just the representations of them that stick with you and that you choose to interpret. And then from that, you build this like interpretation of them. This sort of hologram of them is emblazoned into your psyche, into your consciousness. And so everyone you've ever met and interacted with on any kind of deep level, no matter how deep, first off, it's not a perfect image of them because there's just no way to know another human's mind. But you still have an image of them, a representation of them in your mind. That seems to be what's going on here. I'm not sure. It seems that we go through multiple characters' representations of each other, but it seems that it also seems that it's all framed as them being the representations within Shinji's mind. Because there's that line, like, I am the representation of Shinji in your mind, or I am the representation of Misato in yours. Okay. And there's all this self-torment going on here. All of these characters are torturing themselves. And that appears via representations of the people that they know. This is a classic shot that I've seen memed. Didn't know the context, now I know the context. Yikes. This scene repeated. There are all these we've seen this before. This it's almost like negative color. Not like negative, but like a photo negative. I wonder how these were done. How they were stretched. Warped. Interesting. And it keeps showing, it shows these characters. Well, it shows Shinji alone in this void. We go back to this stark white lighting. He calls out for others. Because he needs someone to tell him what to do. He has no personal drive or desire. Except to run away from fear. Then he's captured by this Eva and held in the same position as Kaoru. As though it's holding him hostage, ready to kill him. I think this is almost exactly the same frame. Minus background and with Shinji's head instead of Kaoru's. As the frame that was held for a long time in the last episode before breaking that head off. It's asking these deep questions about the course of the show. And then there's this idea, the impossibility of philanthropy, where Shinji tries to claim that his reasons for piloting are to do it for everybody, but really it's to do it for everybody so that everybody praises him, right? Or to increase his image. And there's this idea that philanthropy is always self-motivated, that it's impossible to do things for others because either you're to truly be pure of heart, if you will, even the most self-sacrificing behavior, you could make the argument is in order to boost others' image of you, or in order to set at ease the uneasiness in your soul, like alms to the poor, are often looked down upon from a philosophical perspective, in that they're more to help your own soul, to put yourself at ease, than they are to actually help others. And you can always question someone's motivations. I'm of the opinion that both are possible, that yes, you can have purely self-sacrificing or purely generous behavior, but the roots of it are somewhat self-motivated in that helping humans is an evolved trait. Interesting. Then Asuka runs through the various outfits that she's been in. The dress that we see her in the first time we meet her, the school uniform, the towel, and the plug suit. You just want people to need you. And then Ray pops up and calls her out. That goes for you too. What? And that transitions us into the case of Asuka Langley Soryu. She finds herself inside the Eva again, a place where she used to be most at home, feel like she was on top of the world, and now she's at her lowest point there. It's a piece of junk. No, I'm a piece of junk. And then Ray goes through this, bringing up the first ideas of like the ties that we have with others are what shapes us, and they are an intrinsic part of our representations of self, are the representations that other people have formed of us. So if it's all to merge, then those have to be reconciled, I guess. Ray the many rays, the thing called Ray Ayanami. All of us. How can we be that? Because that is what we are called, so we are all that. Identity purely shaped by others. What makes her soul false, though? An object living a lie pretending to be a person, but aren't we all? Right, these flashes, I think they're just distortions of the frame of Ray. Yeah. Blurred really fast. Freaky stuff. I am me because I became who I am through the time I've spent. This is the most coherent argument for her individuality out of the three of them. That she is herself because she has been shaped by the experiences and time that she remembers, but those could all be illusions. Remy has been molded through contact with other people, but that also produces the fear that losing your representation within them means losing yourself. That is what ties are. The real you is somewhere else. That's interesting. It's somewhere deeper inside. So, regardless of the shell created by others' representations of you, there is a deeper kernel of you-ness. Because you don't want to see it. Avoiding the darkness within, because it might not be human. But what is human? Then we get these multicolored Rorschach blots morphing into each other. Really neat. Your own individual world will also cease to exist. And this is given more weight later when we find out that we're reviewing this through the lens of Shinji's own individual world. But then she says that that's what she wants. She wants to die, she wants despair, she wants nothingness. A return to nothingness, but cannot have it because Gendo won't let her. That she came into existence because he needed her. And now they've reached the day to be abandoned. Now that she's reached that day, she has a sense of self that's able to be afraid. Once again, Shinji Ikari. He's melting. Feels so good, growing, expanding outward. So he's the one of them who's already experienced something like this when his ego border was dissolved in the LCL, in the tank. He had this experience, but not quite like this. The beginning of the instrumentality of people, what people are lacking, the loss in their hearts. In order to fill that void in their hearts, the instrumentality of hearts and souls begins. Turning all things to nothingness had begun. But not nothingness. Gendo specifies this. It's not that we were returning to nothingness, but to its original state, where all was one. Then we're shown Akagi dead, Misato dead, and then immediately the two of them alive talking to him. Or talking to each other, in this case. And this is a mirror to the scene with Rei and herself, or the angel. And only one of them is really a glow. I guess that could just be because Akagi is wearing white, because Misato's legs are also sort of glowing. And all of the characters have this sort of glow around them. This is what gives rise to fear and insecurity. And so they're attempting to eliminate that by bundling everyone together, as it's said. But in doing so, you lose what makes a human a human. You lose all semblance of individuality. And then what becomes the point of moving anywhere? Bundle all human souls together so that we can compensate for each other. Going to do this to everyone without their consent implied, mind your own business. But you've been wishing for it to happen too. It is your deep wish. This is the me that exists within your mind, and at the same time the me that exists in your mind, right? So it's as though they are each other's representations, speaking to one another. Perhaps this is part of the process of bundling all the souls together, reconciling the representations. I'm gonna call those representations from now on. I'm gonna search deep within myself, within the Misato that exists in my mind. What do you want? The way her face is sort of shattered over the course of this, torn apart and then taped back together. I wonder if they actually taped the cells back together or if it's drawn in. I hate it all now. Right. Self-resentment. Slept with him because I loved him, but did you really? Yes, he was kind to me. And she's terrified of showing this to Shinji. Embarrassed by it. And embarrassed by that moment of weakness where she reached out to him. Which we've discussed in comment sections and in the Discord, that she was reaching out to him, propositioning sex. Comfort. In the only way that she really knew how. And then they're prodding her like, you're really just filthy. You really just want to show people this filthy side of you, don't you? You want it to be free. I saw my own father in Kaji. I hated it and I ran away, but I loved it and I ran toward it. I derived pleasure from it. Take that kindness and tarnish me with it. That's a hell of a line. Going to tell me to be good to myself, but that's not what she wants. Just like father. And you're just running away. Right, in this moment. Lose all hope for myself. We have the other women call her disgusting, pathetic, foul. And this one guy who, it's implied at the end there that because he says I'm happy to die as long as it's with you. That he's been there for her this whole time. Like, I don't want to read into it too much, but he's the orbiter, you know? He's really been the guy who's cared about her, and she's ignored him the whole time because he's too wholesome. Poor bastard. But then there's this idea that she puts on a performance to gain recognition and to gain appreciation and accolades and stuff, but that doesn't help fill the void within her because it's the her that's putting on a performance. She's getting praised for the quality of her mask and not for the person underneath, and so she's not getting anywhere. She's spinning her wheels. And inside, she's always crying. I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. No, this isn't happiness. We're using a solid rule of threes here. I think, right? No, I'm happy. Am I happy? I'm happy. Am I happy? I am happy. Am I happy? No, this isn't. Yeah, okay. Rule of threes, and then the fourth one is the alteration. I've only made myself believe that it is happiness. And Shinji wonders, is that what we have to do to survive? To pretend to ourselves that what we already have is happiness. It's an interesting idea. You fear not, you fear being alone. And all of them, the thread through all of them is fear of being alone, fear of not being understood or loved or whatever. In this case, filling the gap with hedonism. All of them trying to shove something into that hole within their hearts. Asuka wants self-sufficiency. She's probably the most interesting case because her way of filling that hole is to pretend it doesn't exist and be like, I am self-sufficient and perfect. But of course, when that doesn't work out and you can't be perfect, she crumbles. She falls the hardest of all of them, as far as I can tell. We get this amazing discussion between her parents. I'm not sure if it's her real mother. I think this is her adoptive mother afterward, in this case. But this whole conversation, I don't know if you could hear it from the recorded audio that I used, but it was in 5.1 stereo or 5.1 audio, and so the voices were orbiting around my head the entire time. They had the tracks constantly panning back and forth. It's really interesting. It was like voices inside your head spiraling around you. Kind of crazy. I wonder how much of that was done by later encoders and how much was in the original DVD audio tracks. I figure it was probably in the DVD. Don't quit. Don't stop looking at you. Don't stop looking at me. For myself, and I live on my own. My mom was hanging from the ceiling. She looked very happy. And we get this frame again of Asuka just blown the fuck out. But I hated that look on her face. I don't want to disappear. I hate boys. I hate mom and dad. I hate everybody. No one will protect me. Why won't anyone protect me? That's why I'm going to live by myself, but it's hard. It sucks, and I don't actually want to be alone. And here they are on stage, spotlights down on them, on these representations. Representation of Shinji, representation of Asuka, representation of Misato. And then another one. The real Misato or a different representation? Because this whole world, as far as I can tell from the conceit of it, this is Shinji's world. This is the world that Shinji has chosen. A closed-off place that is comfortable with nothing to hurt him. There are a lot of realities. This is one of them. Annihilation, a world where no one is saved. This is the world that you chose. This was your wish. This is what you chose. where you are void, where you yourself decide how to perceive and accept it. And what this is, really, is the inside of everyone's skull. We all live in our own worlds, where we choose how to perceive and react and interpret everything. And that is the reality that we live in. But to claim that it's a world where everything is already set is silly, because you make the decisions here. This is a representation of a world of representations. A world within his mind. And in order to protect yourself, you've created it, you've turned it into this world, the closed off world, the empty stage. It's a little haven. You have brought about the end of the world, and this is the one you chose. And it will continue next time, which will be like right now. Okay, so this is interesting. And as I said, I feel like we've got a very incomplete picture here. We're going to finish up and get a more complete picture here. Okay, let me pull up episode 26, the true finale. 23 minutes and 8 seconds long. It is literally the shortest episode out of all of the episodes. Okie dokie then. Let me switch the audio track to Nihongo, subtract to full English. Beep beep timer goes here. Final Cruel Angel's thesis. Okay. The instrumentality of souls was still ongoing. Too little time left. Tell the story of the instrumentality of his soul. Fear. That's how we all are. Yeah. Questioning it. Of course versus I think. That line was previously said by Shinji. In that case, it was said by Misato. Then you have to accept the pain. Why? That's an actual picture. That's an actual picture. Lots of actual pictures. Just like you. That makes my life worth something. Thanks, Asuka. Everyone, okay. But it doesn't make me happy. Again, the audio. The beast that shouted love at the heart of the world. Finale, take care of yourself. I don't like it. Are you afraid of being insecure? Rejection. To connect and be recognized. Back to oral stage. Do you love your mother? Because I'm afraid of rejection. Identity. A resolution. A resolution. No. He's speaking directly to Yui. That's why you pilot. The symbol that is me. Is there some core within? Wow. That is why I wish for my soul to be closed off. No one ever will. Yeah. We are all alone in our own heads. Then what is screaming? Pure freedom? What's the point? Everything is a restriction. Flip, 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 flip. Wow. But you just said there is no you. Without Out reflection. Oh, this piece of animation is amazing. When that barrier is manifested. The world reborn. This is still in his head, right? Is this what I think it is? Is this an imagining of the world as a classic anime trope? The traditional stairway climbing? With a normal mother and father. This imagined normal life. Professor Fuyutsuki. Something about the South Pole was on that newspaper. I missed it. She's a classic tsundere. Run into school. I'm surprised they didn't grab toast on the way out. Everybody coming here instead of away. Toast! Mouth! Oh, this is horrible. This is awful. And we play the trope straight. Asuka's the jealous girl. Anta Baka. Everyone's a caricature. A poor facsimile of real people. This is a demonstration of what it could be. Crazy interruption. Oh my god. Why is she introducing the transfer student? Oh, please. The childhood friend and the transfer student. Misato as the sexy teacher. Toji and what's his face as the lecherous best friends. Yeah, if Ano sucked, this would be the world. Indeed. So what do you choose? Cruel Angel's thesis. It's all colored by perception. Reality versus truth. Okay. All based on perceptions. Yep. Completely malleable. So you color all that perception. Shattering the border. Yay, you did it. Woo! Woo! Did not expect this to end on a positive note. And that is the finale of Evangelion. Of Neon Genesis Evangelion. Of course, there's also EOE. Where that will go, I don't know. So let's talk about this. Let's see. We can break this into chunks. One of those chunks is all this stuff that Shinji is going through. And then we have the chunk of Shinji's world, of his own creation, and then we have the chunk of this struggle to call it anything but a parody of anime life. And then the finale. So let's start with the darker psychological stuff. There's far too little time left to make mention of it all. I think that's probably somewhat tongue-in-cheek, that they don't have the time that they needed or wanted to actually flesh out this end of the story. Otherwise, why would End of Eva be a thing? But we tell the story of the instrumentality of Shinji Ikari's soul, and we sort of like wrap it up here. We've got multiple voices expressing these same thoughts, because as far as I can interpret it, like the various people who exist within Shinji's mind are voicing his own thoughts. Just the ones that he relates to on certain things are voicing specific thoughts. Piece of our hearts missing. We're all trying to make up for it together. So this all frames instrumentality in a really positive light. I feel like EOE is gonna fuck with that, because I was expecting this whole thing to be subverted like real quick. Like that congratulations scene at the end, I thought there would be something after that. There would be some this is shallow. But we'll get there. Are you happy to be alive? I'm doing it for myself. We get callbacks to a bunch of lines that have occurred over the course of the show. Do you hate feeling lonely? Do you hate suffering? And those are Kaji speaking, and it's the cut phone to represent Kaji, which is really interesting. And then, who says what's wrong with running away with from the things you don't like? That was originally a Shinji line, I think, in the train of his subconscious. Not a Misato line, but we get it from Misato. That's interesting. If you know it's going to be painful, then what does it matter? And this fits into something. I've been kind of on a trip about this choosing suffering thing, because I think it's really important. And it stems from a semi-Buddhist perspective of like, the world is suffering, life is suffering, but one way that we can gain some kind of satisfaction and fill that void in our hearts is to choose our suffering mindfully, with the awareness that we will hurt no matter what, and that running towards something is always better, not because it's less painful than running away, but because it provides something else that we crave, that we need. And in this case, they make the argument, or the statement here, that running away is just more painful, and Shinji has learned that and been conditioned to that, and so that's why he thinks that running away is wrong, because it has hurt him in the past to run away. And that, yeah, because you learned how painful it is to run away. But it's not, I don't think there's a strong argument made here for that. Like, it makes sense from Shinji's perspective as a character, but I don't buy this as an argument. I agree with it, but not for the reasons that they're stating. Obeying, because if he doesn't, he'll be abandoned, right? Not the only one who's hurting. Everyone hurts. Everyone is suffering. And then we start getting these not live action, but these stills of real pictures with lots of filtering on them. These cans, lots of real stuff interspersed in between things. This is kind of a brilliant thing to do. All of these pictures are really interestingly framed and shot. I wonder if these were images taken in order to be reference material. We've got this penguin over here, which kind of is reminiscent of Pen. It's kind of interesting. That's why you pilot, because by piloting I can be me. I had nothing before it, but we learn later, like, having nothing is normal. I hate myself. And then we get all of these voices on the phone. And in this case, I think we're meant to believe that these are, again, representations in Shinji's head. Or colored perceptions. I know that's what I think because I hate myself. And he's seeking this praise. Seeking praise. This scene is fucking awesome. Just the number of amazingly contrasting colors that go through this Shinji cutout cell. Oh, really cool looking. And a number of times, characters' faces align perfectly with his, or close enough to get a feel for them. But they're just all cells that are being reused from over the course of the show. But it works. Oh, it works so well. It works so well. I really like this frame. Then we cut out the Asuka, or the Shinji cutout. We remove the Shinji cutout and go into bunch of Asuka scenes. Yeah. Bunch of Asuka scenes there. Wonder why only Asuka. All Asuka alone. And then one with Shinji in it as well. Why do you pilot? Why do you pilot? Take care of yourself. And then we get this thing with I don't like it, I do like it, or I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. Sunset, I don't like it. Morning, I don't like it. Something warm, I don't like it. Then we get these faces from previously, from before. Do you want peace of mind? Do you want... Yeah. Afraid of rejection, afraid of being alone. Back to the oral stage, the need for connection, for companionship. Do you want to go to your mom? No. Do you want to go to your father? No. Because I'm afraid that I'll be rejected. Because if I'm rejected, then that's the world telling me that I don't exist. Right? And then we get this conversation with Yui. What do you seek? A resolution to the loneliness. But that's not enough. It's not enough to have the loneliness resolved. I want something before that. I want to be fulfilled. I want to be worth something. I want to prove to myself and others that I am not worth abandoning. My own life isn't worth living. Also, just as a blanket statement, all the shot composition and framing is fucking awesome. Really awesome! This is me, and so then Shinji has delved into the depths of his soul, and he has met that kernel of... Oh no, he has not met that kernel of self. He's still in this idea of representations of the form that I show to others. The me that is not me. All of these are just things that represent me. What other people can recognize as me, then what am I? And all of this sort of dissolves. We get all these flashes of Shinji. The false me? Okay. There is no me, right? But then what is screaming? What is inside that is feeling that there is no me? There is a you. It's just that it's unlinked to those representations. This shot, this perspective shot on the clothing, sexy as fuck. There's a bunch of really sexy animation coming up. I am nothing more than myself. Right, and that's enough. Where do I exist? Full deep dive existential crisis. No one understands anything about me, and Asuka here is the voice of what I would consider reason. Of course no one understands anything about you. Everyone's alone. How could anyone possibly understand anything about you? You are the only one who can empathize with yourself, who can even come close to understanding the first thing about you. Everyone else can only see representations. In the end, you're insecure. We all are. The environment that surrounds you now, none of these things will last forever. Everything is temporal, everything is changing, and it is all up to you how to perceive them as time passes. And then he ends up in a world of pure freedom. And it is not fulfilling to be perfectly free. To say freedom is the goal is worthless. So then we add a restriction. I don't know what I should do. It's all too vague. Nothing to grab onto. No point. That is freedom. And this is fully fourth wall breaking. You're insecure. You don't know what you should do. Here you go. Have a restriction. Restrictions give you purpose. You must stand on the ground. You can move by your own free will. Nice. And everything will change around you. Against your will. And you yourself can change as well. And here we get some amazingly fluid, absolutely batshit crazy abstract animation. Formless, shapeless. And then I think that the shapes that it forms are all life forms, but they're also all reminiscent of some of the angels. The halo angel, the wings, the cross burning up. Absolutely stunning animation. I mean, it's simple stuff, but it's so fucking fluid. Water into an eye. That is reality. And then himself. Space with nothing in it. And so, with no one to reflect off of, no border, the self is evaporating. Because you are the only one here. Again, with the animation, we go absolutely bazonkas. You are shapeless, formless, right? Your image of me, right? Your self-representation. I exist because there are others around me. God damn. All the world would just be me, a face in a void. But not even. Thought in a void. First other person is your mother, the first person separate from you. I'm me, okay. But other people shape my mind as well, so there are other people. Baka Shinji. And then we go into a fucking perfectly constructed what this could be if it were normal. Normal anime. Asuka, the childhood friend. The perv scene. Pen, the alarm clock. Normal family, Yui and Gendo being a normal family. I want to see what's on the newspaper. Wait, what was on the newspaper? South Pole Showa Base opening its doors to visitors' first African-American female president. Okay. So, gibberish. Running to school. Everyone's coming in. Everyone's transferring in. This is the fantasy world. I hope she's cute. And there she is. Toast in mouth. Tropes. And collision. And then we replay the same trope. Okay, where Shinji falls on top of her. And the big subversion is that she's not like, get off of me. Rah. We replay the same trope where she covers herself and does exactly that. And then later calls him out as the panty looker. And we get, what was the line? Yeah, Antabaka. On, little hints of the real down there. Toji and Gun Otaku Boy are the lecherous best friends. Class rep is playing the class rep instead of being a person. This is what everything could be if it were just characters, instead of real people. Characters playing their roles in Shinji's mind. Fantasy. Misato, the fantasy teacher. The girls talking in unison. The hallway, this time in the school instead of the hospital. Meeting Ray, freaking out at meeting each other. Asuka being the childhood friend, Tsundere. And then Shinji realizes that he is a god of his own world. This world of reality isn't so bad. It's all your perceptions. Your perspective is too thin, too small, but so is everyone's. You altered the information to protect yourself, creating a warped truth, a fiction. You only try to see things through the truths that other people have given to you, the things that you expect, things that you equate with each other. Rainy days equal sadness, therefore when it rains, sad. The malleable truth, but that is why we seek more, and you are simply not used to being loved. So, you consider that everyone will hate you. The other thing here is that everyone else is walking around with their own tiny rulers, you know? Only being able to see a little ways in front of them and experience a tiny bit of the world. Not everybody hates you. Most people don't even know you exist. And you can think that's hard, but it can also be really freeing. Doesn't everybody hate me? And now we're back in the clouds with the thorns, the branches, whatever they are. You're just making yourself believe that, but I hate myself. I'm a gutless, hypocritical, wimpy coward. And he's praised for saying this. By Misato. See, if you can understand yourself, you can be kind. You can comprehend your own weakness, you can be kind to others who are weak. I hate myself, but maybe I can learn to love myself. And the glass starts to shatter. The illusion of this confined world starts to shatter. And he emerges from this isolated world into, I guess this here, these are the real them having been instrumentalityified and waiting for him to emerge from his cocoon of sorts. It feels shallow, though. Omedetou. Everyone together. To my father, thank you. To my mother, farewell. And to all the children, congratulations. End. So somebody asked me at one point was, how do you, when you get to the end of 26 before you watch Eiyuu, think about whether you think this is a, I can't remember the exact phrasing. It was said in a way that just wouldn't spoil anything. How you think about it as a conclusion to the series. I think it works as a conclusion. I think it was a bit too quick and not the dark end that I expected. I didn't expect this triumphant end here. And maybe that in and of itself is a bit of the subversion and a bit of the interesting thing. But I don't feel like instrumentality was intended to be a positive occurrence. I got the feeling that this was going to be something that ended up being rejected by Shinji, if by no one else, and not accepted wholeheartedly. And so I was waiting for that to happen, and it didn't happen. And maybe that's just me being disappointed that my prediction was wrong. That would be fair. But it feels vapid. Not that the episode feels vapid or anything like that, but the last minute where he goes, "Oh, everything's just my perceptions, and I could be hopeful instead." It's like, oh, okay, Shinji. I guess you're no longer no longer the depressed boy that we've met because you said so. And now everybody's congratulating you and praising you. And you're getting what you want. I don't feel like Shinji gets what he wants. I don't feel like that's how I want this to end. Certainly interesting. I think everything up to that was right on the money and really interesting. And a great exploration. I mean, the scenes of Shinji floating alone in the void, and restrictions as something that you can climb over and that give us boundaries and give us form. It's really interesting, and I really like that. I think it's an amazing visual metaphor for the workings of the human mind, especially a social human, because all humans are social entities to an extent. It's not that it leaves a sour taste in my mouth, it's that this ending is sickly sweet. Just a little bit sickly sweet. I'll have to let it sit for a while. And I figure I'm going to be watching, if you don't know, I'm going to be watching End of Eva tomorrow. So I won't have much of a gap in between this and End of Eva. But I'll definitely sleep on it and I will consider it. See what I think of this as an ending to the series. Because it's clearly, with the exception of that section in the middle with the absolutely incredible, though not very full, not like full color, high frame count or anything like that animation. Really exceptional animation. With the exception of that, everything was sort of pieced together, and in a beautiful way, but pieced together from existing material, as if time or budget was running out. I think the point that they wanted to get across was made. I won't be so arrogant as to say that I can put my finger on exactly what that point was exactly. Until I've thought about it a lot more and probably after I've watched it all again. Interesting. I could accept this as an ending, but there's a bit of a hole there. There's a bit of something lacking. I'm not sure, again, I'm not sure if I can put my finger on exactly what it is. I hope that End of Eva fills it. I think it will. I guess part of what I feel is missing is the individualist perspective, because this the instrumentality thing, all souls bundled together, is sort of like hyper collectivist or hive mindy in a sense, and I mean, you heard me saying this throughout because I was really expecting it to go this route, and then it didn't. Because again, it's framing this as a positive outcome, and I don't buy it as a positive outcome. And maybe that's me just applying my own perceptions to it, because I perceive that kind of collectivism as flawed. I think that individuality is critical. That differences between people being erased and boundaries between people being erased is is the recipe for stagnation and failure of the species. That our differences are what make us, what propel us forward. So this idea, and I felt this way throughout the series whenever these themes of like all becoming one or don't you want to become one with me were brought up, was like we were setting this up as the world saying to Shinji, become one with us, and Shinji finding a reason to say, no, I want to be just myself. Even if that means being alone. I would rather deal with the pain of loneliness than the stagnation of being one with everything. I felt like that was the message that we were building to. So, So it feels, again, like vapid or like a cop-out to just go along with the collectivist thing that's being presented by everyone around him in the instrumentality. Doesn't feel right. But again, maybe that's just me coloring it, and maybe that was supposed to be the message, and I'm just coloring it because I happen to be an individualist. I don't know. In any case, it's certainly provocative. I'll definitely be thinking about it more over the rest of the evening and tomorrow before I watch EOE. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna wrap this up. Thank you for coming along this journey with me. It's not quite over yet, but this is the finale of Neon Genesis Evangelion, episodes 25 and 26. I've been Teeaboo. This has been Ava. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have, and I hope to catch you tomorrow for E of E. Ah! I'm looking forward to it. Peace.